Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Greg Smith. I'm Executive Director of Florida Literacy Coalition, and I'm pleased to welcome you this afternoon. I hope you all are healthy and well. We're going to be talking about the next round of the Florida Financial Literacy Initiative grants that we've posted through the generous support of Wells Fargo. They've been a great partner on this initiative. We're now going into our 7th year of making these grants available to adult education literacy programs to incorporate financial education into their curriculum. It's been a fantastic partnership, and we're really excited about going into our 7th year. Heather will be sharing some of the results that we had from last year. If you've taken a look at the RFP, you'll realize that this is a grant program, but it's also a program that provides opportunities for programs to get together, network, share. We have a lot of professional development. We're here to support your efforts to have a successful initiative as you help students understand more about managing their money and opportunities for them to access resources. And that's a big part of what we're talking about this year, in particular with COVID. That might help them financially. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Heather Surrency, who manages the program for FLC. Heather?
Thanks, Greg, and thanks everyone for joining us today. We're going to go through a little bit of information about financial literacy and our grant program. And at the end, we'll have time for questions. Okay. So I just want to start by defining the need in Florida in terms of financial literacy education. About 34% of individuals in Florida with credit cards paid only the minimum during the last year. We also know that about 19% of Floridians spent more than their income. And when we look at the students that we tend to work with, that statistic is going to be even higher of the number of people who are just struggling every month to make ends meet. Also, in Florida, only about 31% of individuals, and this is throughout the whole state of Florida, can score an 80% or higher on a basic financial literacy quiz. So we can definitely see that the need is there for everyone, especially for our adult education and ESOL students. So as Greg mentioned, we really want to also look at what's the financial impact of COVID-19. I think all of us can say that we have been impacted one way or another financially. And for many of us in Florida, we may have been furloughed, lost a job, and had a significant decrease in income. So again, this is Florida specific in terms of, this is for the US in terms of COVID-19. About 88% of Americans say that this is causing stress on their personal finances, which makes perfect sense. We've had so much kind of upheaval and insecurity in financial markets, as well as in our employment opportunities. About 54% report being worried about not having enough money saved. About 60% of Americans report that they don't have a savings to cover an unexpected $1,000 expense. And typically we're thinking of things like emergency room visits or car repairs, but right now we're thinking of paying utilities, paying rent and mortgage, affording groceries. And about 48% report being worried about their ability to pay their bills, as I said. So Wells Fargo, who is our major sponsor of the, our financial literacy initiative, is really putting a lot of focus in how we can help people during this time of COVID-19. So as you're kind of thinking about your particular program in your organization, we would like you to kind of focus in on what are some specific needs that have occurred as a result of COVID-19. Some of those needs may be the same as your students had last year, but there may be some particular ones that we can be addressing right now. So just to kind of take that point a little bit further, I wanted to point out that, and I'm sure you've heard a lot about this in the news, but many people who are unemployed are not getting the reemployment or unemployment insurance funding that they need. So I just wanted to point this out to you because we hear a lot about it. We see that there have been about 2,400,000 unique claims sent to the DEO. But if you look here with this other circle, we see that approximately 212,000 people are receiving that federal funding of $600,000 a week. So very small percent of who has, filed a claim with the DEO. We also see about 1.5 million people out of that 2.6 million are actually receiving Florida-specific unemployment, which is an amount of up to $275 per week. So for many unemployed Floridians right now, who really are struggling to pay their bills, to make ends meet, if they're not fully getting unemployment funding and money. So I want to just take a second to launch a poll. So while we're here, take a look at your control panel. You'll be able to see the poll when it pops up, but you also have audio controls there, and you can submit questions or chats as we go along. So take just a moment to answer our question. Is financial literacy currently part of your curriculum? I'll give you just another moment to complete that. Okay, so it seems like about 77% of you are currently addressing financial literacy in your curriculum, which is great. For the 23% of you who maybe have not yet started this process, I hope today you can get some additional resources. And this grant program is also a great way for you to start. So we don't require that as part of our grant program. You don't have to have prior experience in your organization with financial literacy. So our grantees are kind of a combination of people who are new to financial literacy as well as veterans. So that makes a great mix when we work together as a group. So I want to talk for a moment about the positive impact of financial literacy education. So we see that financial literacy is beneficial for all Americans, but it seems to be highly beneficial, especially for women, decreasing their chances of being financially fragile. We also see that regardless of education level, financial literacy respondents are more likely to plan for retirement than non-financially literate. So it's a myth to think that just because someone has graduated from high school or even graduated from college, that they really have an understanding of financial literacy. So we can all benefit from education. But we definitely see that those who have the least amount of education have the greatest positive impact or the greatest benefit, and can really make a significant difference in their fragility, or their and fragility just kind of means your ability to handle unexpected situations, as well as to plan for the future. So I want to show you now some of the specific results from our grant program. As we will talk about in just a little while, we do a lot of data collection. We ask that organizations give their students pre and post financial literacy assessments. And that just helps us to understand how we can improve as an organization. And it also helps us to communicate to Wells Fargo the amazing work that's being done by our grantees. So we can see in 2018 and the 2018-19 grant cycle, about 82% of students increased their financial literacy knowledge. And that was up from 75% of students the previous year. So that really shows that profound knowledge impact that we see through this financial literacy initiative. 43% of students reported establishing a checking, savings, or investment account. And again, this is a really important indicator. We see a lot of people in Florida, especially, using non-traditional financial institutions, and there's a lot of downside to that. So one of the things we really try to encourage students to do is to become what we call banked, or establish a checking or banking account. And there are organizations such as Bank On that work with banks to have very low fee, low cost accounts for people. 68% of students report that learning about financial literacy helped them in their everyday life. 81% reported a better understanding of how to avoid scams, fraud, and identity theft. And I think this one is always important, but especially important right now with COVID-19. There are a lot of scams that are going on. We're seeing a lot of scams even in social media, ads that pop up in my Facebook, for instance. I was watching the CBS Morning News, and I saw non-traditional financial institutions advertising at a high rate. I saw about 3 commercials in 1 hour watching the news today. So I really think that our students are even at more risk right now when they're feeling desperate for financial assistance. 89% of students will recommend this program to others, and 76% of students report the program has helped improve their ability to manage their finances. So, we're really proud of all of the work that our grantees have done on this initiative. So just to give you some of the basics of exactly what we're talking about with our program. So we serve adults who are receiving basic education, literacy, ESOL, or family literacy instruction in Florida. And we've served more than 4,500 students so far, and that number is always going up. So our purpose is to help adult learners to gain the knowledge that they need to be able to navigate through their financial choices and to be able to plan for the future. So how do we do this? We take what we call a contextualized approach to learning. We help students acquire their basic math, literacy, and language needs and skills, while we're also helping them to understand more about financial literacy. So this is the 7th year of the initiative. I mentioned that we are funded by Wells Fargo, and then we at the Florida Literacy Coalition manage the initiative. So this year, we will be giving 8 grants of up to $5,000 to organizations throughout the state. So the eligibility criteria. Organizations who are interested in applying for this $5,000 grant must be a 501c3 nonprofit organization or a government-based agency. You must provide adult literacy or ESOL instruction via classes, small groups, or individual tutoring or teaching. And you must commit to basic reporting requirements, which includes, as I mentioned, the pre and post knowledge assessment. We also have a student behavioral survey, and we also have a teacher or instructor survey. Another criteria that you must meet is you must be located in one of the 46 Florida counties that are served by Wells Fargo. And this information is detailed in the guidelines. So if you're not sure, almost every county is covered. There's just a few in the Panhandle and a few in the I think, southwestern part of the state that are not covered. So our intent is to provide at least 1 grant in each of Wells Fargo's 4 Florida regional service areas. So let's talk a little bit about the specific application. So I want to help you to navigate in case you haven't had an opportunity yet to look at our application. Hopefully everybody is familiar with our website, which is floridaliteracy.org. So on our website, we have a tab for financial literacy. And whether or not you decide to apply for the grant or you receive a grant, we have a lot of great resources on our financial literacy page. We have educator resources. We have some student resources. You can look by topic. We have COVID-19 specific resources, as well as information about our grant program. So if you click on grant program, you'll see all of the information that you need. We have a frequently asked questions document. We have a checklist of everything required for the grant. We have guidelines where we give kind of a written explanation. And then we have the actual application template itself. So I'll click on that real quick. So you can just kind of take a look at that. So the deadline, and I'll mention this a few times, is August 5th, 2020 at 11:59 p.m. So it is submitted electronically. That's why we have the time set at 11:59 p.m. Click on this link, and we'll do that in a few minutes. And it asks for demographic information, as well as for you to upload a PDF of this information that you can see on the application. We do ask that you keep these headings. You don't need all the information under the headings, but this kind of gives you a template or an idea of how to write your grant proposal. So let's take a moment to look. Hold on one second, I'm sorry. I wanted to show you the application. All right, we'll have to do that in just a moment. But I'll show you online what the application looks like. So as I kind of just showed you, we have the specifics of the narrative. It's a 5-page max, including the budget. So you really want to make sure you keep to this guideline. The review committee will not look at more than 5 pages. As I mentioned, use those section headings, and you want to be as detailed and specific as possible. So you want to give our selection committee a good idea of exactly what your program is going to look like. So just to give you some information about my experience, I just help to facilitate the committee, but they really do talk about what is this program going to look like? Who is it serving? How many hours are they going to be providing financial literacy education? What specifically are they spending the funds on? They really want to know specific, detailed information. And you also want to make sure that your objectives are measurable. So how many students are you going to serve? How are you going to serve them? Be as specific as possible and make sure that those objectives come back to the budget so they can see clearly through your objectives and your budget what your program will look like. And if you're a returning grantee, you should also provide details of the basic outcomes that you achieved in your prior grant year. We also ask that you attach some supporting documents, financial information from your organization, and we give more information about that in the guidelines. And you can also optionally attach some letters of support or information about your organization. It could be a newsletter or pictures or anything that you want. But make sure that's no more than 2 pages. When I put together each applicant's package, I take those first 2 pages and the rest of it I discard so the committee won't even see any pages additionally that are added. See if I can pull up your online application. Okay, so here it is. For those of you who have applied before, it is a little bit different. Previously, you could save your application as you went along, but we had to change platforms, so everything now has to be submitted at the same time. You cannot add some of it and come back later. So as I mentioned, first we're just going to ask you for some demographic information. We're going to ask about who you serve, what kind of organization you are. So it's all pretty straightforward. We would like to know how many students you provided instruction to during fiscal year 2019, how many volunteers you have, if any, how many paid instructors. So this information, again, just gives our committee a good idea of what your organization is like and how you're going to administer this grant. So then you can see towards the bottom, that's where you're asked to upload your application. Only PDF files will be accepted because the problem with Word is that it can change formatting, and I don't like to format people's things. I want the committee to see it exactly as you intended. You can also upload your organization's operating budget, your IRS letter, and then your optional 2 pages of information. So this link is in the application as well as posted on the website where I showed you all the application information can be found. So again, to talk a little bit more about the application details in terms of the budget. In our application template, we do give you this example of a budget. I encourage you to use it only because it's simple to use and simple to read, but if you use a different budget system, you may use that form as well. One thing I want to really point out, and I highlighted it for you, you want to specifically detail how your funds will be used, especially if you have other sources of income. So we don't require that. There's no requirement for matching funds or additional funding from your organization or others. But if you do, you really want to show how are you going to spend the $5,000 from this grant. We've had a number of situations in which the committee is just confused. And as I mentioned a couple of times, they really want to know how the $5,000 will be used to support your objectives. So just be sure to pull that out separately. Also under the project expenses, you can spend up to $1,000 on equipment. And you can spend up to $400 to attend the Florida Literacy Conference, which will hopefully, depending on COVID, be held in spring of 2021. You can list any other expenses. If you have in-kind donations, such as your classrooms, your building, volunteers, you can list all that as well. So what are the program expectations? I've mentioned a few of these, but I think it's good to have all of the basic expectations in one place. So we expect that you're going to implement a financial literacy curriculum with students. We expect that you're going to form community collaborations and partnerships. These don't have to be new. Typically, we see organizations have some collaborations already, and they add a few new ones every year. But I know from having worked for a government organization, there's a lot of people out there who would love to help you. Wells Fargo being number one on the list. Most of our grantee organizations rely on Wells Fargo to come in and do a lot of basic financial literacy education, and they do this for free. So it's a great community resource. We also expect you to incorporate a project-based learning activity at the end of the course, and I'll talk in just a moment about what exactly that is. So we don't require a set number of hours, but just to give you an idea, most of our grantees indicate they typically spend, I'm sorry, that's an error, it says send, but spend an average of 20 hours per class, per classroom or class group, including the activities in the project. So that kind of gives you a starting point. We do sometimes get applications that are what we call one-shot deals, where you go to an organization and you do a 2-hour presentation on financial literacy. That's not exactly what we are looking for under this grant. We are looking for projects in which there's a continued relationship with students in an academic environment. That's where we really see the knowledge, behavior, and skill development that we want. So just a little bit about project-based learning. For those of you who are grantees, you've heard this before, definitely, because I talk about it a lot. But for those of you who are new to project-based learning, it can be done in any different topic, financial literacy just being one, but it's a great approach to teaching. And what we do with project-based learning is we put our learners in a realistic situation where they are problem solving, gaining skills, gaining knowledge themselves. So it's a fantastic way to teach information to students because they realize how it applies to their life. It's authentic learning. They may be learning job skills and other types of skills, confidence, self-esteem, communication in the process. So it really helps them to acquire a deeper understanding of a topic, and again, to see how it relates to them outside the classroom. And when we look at student retention, we know that helping students see what they're doing in the classroom, how it relates to their life, is going to also help to increase retention of the students in your program. So some examples of project-based learning that we have seen students do before. Some people host what we call a financial reality fair, which is a situation where maybe students have a scenario of a person and they have to go around and kind of manage the financial life of that fictional person. Or sometimes they go as themselves and they go around to different stations. Maybe they have to sign up for cable and electricity and rent and find a job and transportation. It's just a great way to help people learn about budgeting, anticipating costs, things like that. We also typically see a lot of grantees doing mock banking activities where the students get to play all the different roles in a bank. They might be a teller, they might be a customer, they might be a loan officer. And through this activity, they can learn a lot about how a bank runs and what information they need to know if they go in. So also with project-based learning, one of the major objectives is to take the information and to share it with others not in the class. So a mock banking activity can be used in this way if there are other students who don't know a lot about going to a bank, so they can practice and gain skills as well. So that's definitely a secondary goal of our initiative, is to help people not in the class also gain information and resources and skills by interacting with their friend or family who has gone through the program. Group research projects are another great project-based learning activity. Again, you could do projects for other students in your organization. You could film them and put them on social media or on your website. You could make videos, songs. I mean, there's so many different ways that students can take this information and communicate it to others. We've had quite a few where students have either come up with small business plans or actually started small businesses. We had one grantee where they started a t-shirt business. So again, a lot of great skills and experience go into starting a business as a group. And you could even do something as simple as developing a brochure or information to distribute to other students or to people in your community. Sorry, just one moment. I wanted to show you an example. Here we go. So this is a great website called PBL Works. It is really focused, I would say, at K-12, but there are a lot of projects in here that would be useful for your students as well. So I just did a search for financial literacy, and quite a few projects came up. You can see 61 results. And this organization is great because they give you help from the beginning of how to plan a project-based learning activity all the way through to the end. And a lot of these involve math and numeracy as well as the financial literacy information. So I encourage you to take a look at this site. And recently they've been doing a lot of online training on how to use project-based learning in the classroom. That's really interesting. Also on our website, we have a list of student projects that have been done in the past. So how does FLC support you as a grantee? Well, we have quarterly informational conference calls and webinars. This gives an opportunity for the grantees to share information about what they're doing or resources that they're using. And then I typically choose a resource and or a topic to give a little bit more information on. I might give classroom activities, PowerPoint presentations, things like that to support teachers as they're teaching, as they're introducing this information in the classroom. We provide training and technical support for individual programs and instructors. So if you need help getting your program set up or you have questions as you go along, then I'm available to you to assist. And then we also continually provide resources and curriculum support through our website. And again, I do that personally. So at our annual Florida Literacy Conference, which again, we hope to hold in the spring, we do have a financial literacy track as well that can provide your instructors with additional information about financial literacy. We tend to have at least 3 financial literacy specific sessions offered as part of our conference. So we're definitely here to support you, especially if you're new to the area of financial literacy. Another great resource is a program called Hands-on Banking, which is produced by Wells Fargo. It's free. There's no advertising. There's no accounts set up. There's no need to do anything. Your instructors can just go right on and take a look at all their different curriculums. So they have curriculums for all ages. They have teenagers, they have young adults, they have military, they have older adults as well. In my experience, a lot of the grantees kind of pick and choose from those different curriculums to find what suits their students the best. And I just want to kind of point out as we're talking about these resources, financial literacy instruction is really not meant for your very basic student because they're going to struggle to understand the concepts and the language and terminology that's being used. So really, we encourage you to be working with students who have a little bit higher of a knowledge level, and that's where the hands-on banking can help because you could maybe be at the middle school level or at the high school level. And there's many other resources on our website as well that are leveled that can provide financial literacy information wherever your students are and meet their needs. So also as part of hands-on banking, there are instructor guides online, and I can send printed versions to you as well. And again, it takes you through the whole curriculum. It has teaching tips, classroom activities, worksheets, quizzes, all kinds of tools for you to use. So as I mentioned, we do have some reporting requirements. We ask that you submit a brief mid-year report as well as a year-end final report. What I do as part of my job is I compile all this information and then we send it off to Wells Fargo so they can specifically see all the great work that you're doing. So as part of that, and we looked at the results earlier, we have those pre and post assessments that I mentioned. They are available either in a paper version or an online version, as well as the teacher and student evaluation surveys. So these are just a couple of the resources that I like to highlight. Obviously, number one, I showed you on our website, we've got COVID-19 financial literacy resources, as well as our basic financial literacy resources, the hands-on banking I just mentioned, and the National Endowment for Financial Education. But there's many other wonderful curriculums and resources to help you along. So you definitely don't have to create everything from scratch. So that's kind of a basic overview of the program. We would love to right now encourage any current grantees that we have to say a few words maybe about how the program has affected them. So what I'm going to do right now is try to unmute those of you who are interested in speaking. So you could raise your hand if you would be interested in saying a few words if you are a past grantee. So once I do unmute people, and that'll also be for those of you who might have a question. Once I unmute you, you also have to unmute yourself. And if you are attending this webinar on the computer, you must have an active microphone that is connected to GoToWebinar in order to ask a question. But we are also happy to take questions that are submitted through either our chat or our Q&A as well. So give me just a moment and I will work on unmuting people. So Michelle Wallace, if you're there, I think I unmuted you. Are you there, Michelle?
Yes. Hi. How are you, Heather?
I'm great. Thanks, Michelle. You want to tell us a little bit about your fantastic program?
So my name is Michelle Wallace, and I'm the success coach for our ESOL students at Seminole State College. And we started as soon as we got our money in October last year. So we're on our third round of students. We actually have a day and evening program in the summer. And we have an excellent instructor who did it in the spring, took us online in the spring, and it's been all online in the summer. And each session we've had a different project our students have done. The first class that we had did a identity theft project. Our second class did credit and credit score project. And this one is doing finances during the pandemic project. So the students absolutely love the class and are learning so much. They all show up, even though it's after our regular classes. So some of them that's another hour onto their day, and the other ones are coming an hour early before their evening class. So it's been really excellent for all our students.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. Kathy Severson, are you there?
Yep. Hi, Heather. Hi, everyone. This is Kathy Severson in DeSoto County. We have been very fortunate to have been recipients of this project for a number of years. I highly recommend it to anyone that's considering applying. Our program, of course, COVID threw a wrench in it for us, but in previous years, as well as this year up to COVID, we have done a number of things. We always participate in the America Saves Week, which is a great initiative in February. Just a week-long opportunity for you to do specific financial literacy projects throughout that week. Our students create individual portfolios, financial portfolios that include goals and timelines specific to their life and their needs. We are strong proponents of the hands-on banking platform. We use that in our classrooms. We deal really closely with our local Wells Fargo branch. They have been a strong supporter for us and have always been willing to come into our school and speak to the students. and it's just been a great opportunity.
Thanks, Kathy. You guys have an amazing program. Thanks for sharing. So if anyone else has questions, you can raise your hand or you can send it into the chat box, and I'd be happy, and Greg as well would be happy to answer your questions. So let me.
Oh, Heather, could you share with folks what the timetable is in terms of when they would receive notice with regard to their grant application?
Sure. So the grant cycle will start October 1st, and we will notify grantees probably at the beginning of September. And let's see. And Bridenstine, if you're still there, I will unmute you. You can unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hi, Ann.
Hello, Heather. Hi, everybody. Yes, I have a question about careers and finance. Is that something that's covered in the curriculum, or Heather, do you know if there's a big demand for careers in banking? Is that something that we can cover during this grant process, or grant period?
I mean, that's a good question. So you're saying for students to be able to pursue a financial career, that is not something we've covered before, but that's something we could definitely look into. A lot of those careers are going to require a bachelor's degree, if not a master's, but there are some positions, there are some teller positions I think that are still out there in customer service. So I think that's a great suggestion to try to look at that. And that's
Go
ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to also say, to me, part of our mission in helping students during COVID-19 is to maybe help them gain additional job skills. For many Floridians working in entertainment or tourism, those jobs may not come back. So that is a great thing that we can do for our students through our financial literacy program. We're helping them to learn more both about finances as well as maybe how to expand their job skills through Career Source and other job programs offered by the state.
Thank you.
I'd like to add that Heather did an excellent session, probably about 6 weeks, or what was about 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, Heather. That's available. It was a webinar. It's available on our website, and it really does focus on both health and financial resources that are available in the time of COVID, getting into some details in terms of different kinds of programs that are out there that help people during these difficult times. So I encourage you to go to our website if you're interested in taking a look at that.
Definitely. Are there any other questions? I'll go ahead right now and unmute everyone. And so if you would like to ask a question. Any questions about kind of submitting the application? We really try to make it as easy for you as possible. Okay, Greg, I'm not really seeing many questions. Would you like to add anything else, Greg?
No, thank you though, Heather. Excellent job. And I do encourage all of you who feel that this may be a good fit for your program. We definitely will be working with programs we have a lot of flexibility as programs are trying to decide as to whether and at what time they're going to be going back into more of a classroom or in-person kind of situation. So as we did this year, we're going to be flexible on that and just sort of seeing how things go. So please don't let that discourage you. If you can't sort of bring classes together in a traditional way, there's a lot of good ways to share this information virtually and through distance learning as well. So without any other questions, we just wish you all good luck if you're interested in applying. And I'm sorry, did one come up?
Yeah, we may have one more. I'm sorry. Is Mary there? Mary, if you unmute yourself, you could ask a question. Oh, I see now her question. She wanted to know about the slides. We will send out the slides to everyone. And we'll also post the audio of this as well as the slides on our website where our application is posted. Thank you for that question. And also you can see on here, feel free to contact me. Email is the best way to contact me right now because as you can tell, Greg and I are working remotely. So if you have any questions along the way, unsure about something, feel free to send me a message.
Okay, very good. Well, if there aren't any other questions, we'll go ahead and adjourn the call. Thank you everyone for participating and we look forward to getting your applications. Take care. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.